Welcome to GameSpot's continuing coverage of E3 2014. You're watching the Samsung stage. I'm your host, Daniel Dwyer. It's my last appointment of the day, but I gotta say, it's one of the most exciting ones. Code Name S.T.E.A.M was announced yesterday, and I'm very happy to be joined by Paul from Intelligent Systems. How you doing, sir?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for coming on the stage today.
Thank you for having us and allowing us to present our game to everyone.
Not at all. I usually get my list of games weeks in advance, and I pile through them, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one, that's a good one. And then eventually there's unannounced Nintendo game Ace, and I'm like, okay, when am I going to know what this is? And it wasn't until last night that you guys actually revealed it to the press.
Exactly.
How was that?
Well, I've been told it went very well. I was very nervous, but yeah, I think I hope that people got a good understanding of, the core mechanics and what we attempted to do with the game and where we wanted to go in terms of, the artistic ambitions and also the goals that we set for this game, yes.
Well, you guys, Advanced Wars and Fire Emblem Intelligent Systems are known for those high-quality experiences, that sort of real good tactical stuff. In fact, it could be said that people would have been really happy if you just announced a sequel to any one of those games. So why a new IP? Why this?
Well, this was a decision from Mr. Yamagami, our producer, who thought it would be, well, for one thing, so he had so much faith in this, in our original pitch, that he thought, this would work as a new IP, and he also thought that it is different enough that we shouldn't, so we already have, what those series do is what those series do.
Yeah, they're very sort of set in stone.
They should keep doing it. So if we have a new idea, it would be a waste to just like call it Advanced or something or Fire Emblem something when it's obviously not that.
For sure, yeah.
So while it is risky to have a new IP, I think it's the right decision to launch it like that and not kind of rely on a
name or marketing budget or something.
Yes.
So, Paul, you've actually brought this gameplay to us. This game was only announced yesterday, and this is the first time where we're actually having a look at it being played live. So, can you just explain the moment-to-moment action? What's happening here in Code Name S.T.E.A.M?
So, Code Name S.T.E.A.M is a turn-based strategy game, but it is played entirely from a third-person perspective. So, almost like a shooter game. And the system that we use may be familiar to players who like especially the original XCOM, or perhaps I myself, I grew up on a Speccy back in Romania, and we had, of course, laser squads.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So it uses an action point system. Therefore, you don't have that style. So in Fire Emblem and Advanced Wars, we have that very structured style of move, attack, move, select the next move, select the next unit, move and attack, select the next unit, move and attack. But for this game, because it takes place on a 3D battlefield, and we don't give you an overview map, like it's entirely played from this perspective, you don't get any other helpers. That style of gameplay simply didn't work, so we went for action points. And we represented these action points as STEAM, so it's a steampunk theme game. It takes place in an alternate 19th century, and this is a special team of very gifted individuals put together by American President Abraham Lincoln to fight.
Excellent.
To fight these very strange aliens that you see there.
It's cool. There's lots of. Well, not as many of these games, but people are familiar with sort of the line of sight that's on play here with stuff like Frozen Synapse, like you said, XCOM, even the new XCOM, but those games are predominantly played isometrically.
Yes.
What is it that, from the third-person perspective, that sort of makes it different?
Well, it brings. I like to say that it brings an element of actual depth to the gameplay.
Right, yeah. Like visual depth.
Like visual depth, yes. So what happens is that you are limited, so each unit is limited to a very
narrow view
of the battlefield. So, but since you control multiple units, a big part of this game is scouting your environment with the various units. And from these various viewpoints, try to build up a view of the battlefield in your head, and then based on that, build a plan for action. And we discovered, so me personally, I really pushed for having a 2D map or having a compass or something, like just give me some kind of feedback. But Mr. Yamagami, our producer, and the people from Nintendo were very adamant that this third-person view is so compelling, and it's so it brings something very fresh to the genre that we should really stick to it. So
it's an interesting argument to make on either side, because perhaps the most important part of any turn-based game, or what we're used to at least, is the map, is knowing how far you are from. Even if you don't know what's over there, you know that only a certain amount of things could be over there. You know, so even that little bit of information means so much. So I guess in that respect, how do you set up for attacks if you're not really sure what's around the next corner?
Well, of course, in this game you can use OverWatch, so you can leave some steam over. So the action points, as I said, it's steam. You can leave some steam left over for the next turn, and wait for an enemy to come around the corner.
Now it's getting interesting.
They're sometimes smart enough not to do that, but in order to make the game fun for the player, we've also added enemies that would attack you and they would get caught into the Overwatch. And actually, since we are on the subject of Overwatch, we really worked hard to make the Overwatch mechanic different and fresh. So we've added several features that I feel are perhaps unique to this game. And one of them is the fact that, well, of course, doing an Overwatch attack means that you can damage the enemy on their turn.
Yes.
But you can also stun them.
Okay.
So because many of the enemies are quite tough, you won't be able to kill them. It's quite common that you wouldn't be able to kill them in your own turn. So what you can do is you can take a gamble on your weapon's ability to stun an enemy, which is different from weapon to weapon. So there are some characters that have weapons that are better at doing this. So you take a gamble on the Overwatch, and you use the Overwatch to prevent the enemy from doing anything else on their turn. So you negate their movement on their turn, and then you get to finish the job on the next turn.
Excellent. How long is each level? Because you can sort of lean into this. You know, you can scale this quite. Like lots of tactical games can be quite long on a portable system. Sometimes you want to keep it short. So how do you guys kind of weigh that up?
Very perceptive of you to say that. Because it's a portable game, we wanted it to keep it somewhat short, and we also wanted to have variety. So the maps are fairly, so they're not ridiculously large.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some very large maps, but the majority of the maps are of a length that would allow you to kind of finish them, you know, in a matter of, well, less than an hour, definitely. But in dozens of minutes, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Can you do mid-mission saves?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect.
And what we did is that initially we had these like really big levels that would take a really long time to do. And it was kind of like, it wasn't boring, you know, I mean, it was the same game. But, you know, when you have a map, like you have the design goals for that map, you are limited to the amount of variation you can have within the same map.
Yes, of course.
So what we decided to do is actually to have missions that are structures over several maps. So you have several smaller maps, but that play quite differently. And so you get all the time you get to see something new or have a new gameplay experience fairly often in this game. I mean, I would like to think you do. And this is again something that I feel perhaps not so many strategy games manage to do. Like in many strategy games, you kind of end up doing the same thing over and over again. And it was important to try to avoid this. And
I'm going to take a couple of questions as well, Paul. Zoe Richmond's asking the characters in this game. So how many characters do you have, and do they have individual traits?
Yes, I'm not going to tell you the total number of characters. There's quite a few of them. There's not a ridiculous number of them, because we wanted each character to have a personality and to feel really unique. Their individual traits are their main weapon, so they each have a main weapon that is very different. Like they have very specialized and sometimes very strange functions. Like some of them you will need to use your imagination in order to figure out a way to use it. Their second characteristic is the fact that they have a special move. I think you may have seen several of them, like a special spectacular attack, which again is very useful, but you'll have to learn how to use it. Like you can waste it very easily. You can only use those once per map.
Okay.
Like they don't consume any resource, but you can only use them once.
And how many characters do you take? Is it 4 per mission?
Yes, it is a 4-man team.
Excellent. I love how it's actually even coming up alien movement in between the movement pieces. It's giving me a very XCOM-y feel as well. In terms of then, I guess the campaign, as it were. How long is that? Do you sort of lean into skirmish mode much, or is it mostly got to do with a single story thread?
In this case, we went with a story-based, so we really wanted to create this, again, have variety and have this more kind of structured feel to the gameplay.
Yeah.
So we do not have a skirmish mode. There's the campaign is set up so that it's a linear campaign. So you progress from mission to mission, and hopefully, like, there's a lot of variety and new things that you see and do over the course of the mission. I think for an average player, it would take a fairly long time. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think I never, to be honest with you,
It's
I never
so
counted,
difficult
but,
sometimes. Yeah.
But it is a long campaign.
I'm assuming you guys.
I mean,
do you have?
if you look at the total number of missions, it may seem is not so much.
Yeah.
But once you get into it and you play it, you'll actually discover that it's quite a meaty game. There's quite a lot of content in there.
I'm assuming you don't have any multiplayer aspect to it at all.
You're assuming wrong.
I am. Tell me about it.
I cannot tell you about it. So, well, all we can reveal at this point is that there are multiplayer modes, both locally and online. But we will roll out those a bit, in the future.
Yeah, in the future. Yeah, the game's only been announced one day.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Which, by the way, good job, because there was a trademark filing about 2 months ago for Code Name S.T.E.A.M, and nobody put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I was very glad about it, because I was pretty much the last 2 months I was like, oh my god, like, when will they figure it out? But nobody did.
There you go.
That was excellent. Yeah.
We got a scoop as well here on the GameSpot stage as well. I'm very happy with. So this isn't coming out until 2015. Do you guys think it'll be close to the start of the year, middle, end?
That is not my decision, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Fair enough. Let's talk about some of the mechanics then specifically as well. So we're getting a lot of questions based on that. Line of sight. Is there a distance limiter on line of sight? Can you hit? Is there a fog of war happening, or can you hit as long as you can see somebody?
No, there is no fog of war, so you can see as far as your eye can see.
Okay.
But there is a range to the weapons, so you will be able to see enemies that you cannot shoot. So this will allow you to plan. So we actually, it did have a fog of war for a long time, but we discovered it was not having an overview map.
Yes.
It was quite difficult to play.
Disorientating,
Yes.
perhaps.
So, and it was also very difficult to explain. I mean, you just kind of move forward, and then suddenly an enemy would pop out of nowhere, like it just looked unnatural.
Yes.
It was a hard decision for me, because I felt that there should have been like a line of sight, like, but it just didn't feel right. So we gave you the ability, so you can see as far as you can see. And actually, on this point, a lot of our maps, perhaps not this one not so much, but this particular map has a lot of underground, but she didn't, the person playing didn't take that route. Our maps have a lot of verticality to them.
You could see even with the weapons in terms of the mortar as well.
And so it becomes very important in this game to take the high ground, because the high ground will give you a better view of the battlefield. So just finding those places and getting in those high places is a very important part of the strategy.
So the story itself then, is this an alien invasion happening in an alternate late 19th century Earth?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can see, like, I'm gonna give you this much. This is a map you can see is set in a graveyard. It's a bit of a spooky atmosphere. So our enemies and perhaps part of the main story of the game is inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft.
Cool. I want to ask one more question as well. Sue in the chat is asking, what's the deal with when your players die? Is there a death state? Is there a revive state that you can get them into? And in terms of like all the characters you have, can you lose characters that you can't ever get back again?
No, this is so because in this game you don't have a lot of abstract parameters and stuff that you level up for the characters. You actually have to think of your team as a team.
Yeah.
So all of your characters are important, and you'll have to combine them for each map. You'll have to find the best loadout and the best characters for each map. So because of this, if we had something like permadeath, you wouldn't be able to progress in the campaign.
Of course, yeah. It would hurt you so much further on.
Yes. So there is no such mechanic. Like your units will revive between maps, and you will also have mechanisms to revive them on the map.
Excellent. Paul from Intelligent Systems, thank you so much for coming on the Samsung stage for GameSpot.com.
I thank you for giving us this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to, I don't know, in the future
talking
to
about
talk some more. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Code Name S.T.E.A.M is a game that we didn't know about 24 hours ago, and it's great to have you on the stage and talk about it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's my time on the Samsung stage, done and dusted. I'll be appearing on the GameSpot stage later on with some hot rips, Black Gold Online. I'm pretty sure I've talked to them every single E3. And Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, which of course is coming to next-gen system, PlayStation 4. So yeah, I'll be over there in about 2 hours' time. The show continues. There's so many games on the show floor. So many.